3 hams will certainly kill him.
Hello and welcome to the Catboy Rants. Little thing today, what we're going to do is, one, since it is getting warmer, we're going to put up a new wall scroll right in the front room. It's going to be behind me, so we're going to do that right now. And other than that, we're going to get into the rant. As we all know, this rant is going to be about Scott Pilgrim versus the world.
Mama serpentine. I got a breathalyzer and my body's clean.
You know. Anyways, on to the changing of the wall scroll. Like I said, it's getting warmer, so it's time to change the wall scroll. It's been up here for all winter. It's my Enigma poster, well, wall scroll. It'll go into the bedroom until it gets a little bit colder. And you're kind of wondering, you know, why we're doing that instead of like putting this up for summer. Reason is I like to be reminded that it's going to get warmer, a little bit more fun in the sun. But not as fun as that. Got my Love Hina wall scroll. There we go. So, on to talk about Scott Pilgrim versus the world.
Is Scott here?
You know what? He just left.
And honestly, I gotta say, when I got this, this was actually purchased from a Blockbuster that was going out of business. Good price. I thought, hey, I want to go ahead and get it, might as well. And since then, I watched it multiple times. I've lent it out to friends, but nobody likes it as much as I do because, I don't know, it may be because it strikes so much to like the gaming culture. And those of you who have seen it know exactly what I'm talking about. From the fight scenes to how we're treated with the concept of death. Both of the villains, the frenzy fights, as well as, of course, the main character, spoilers. You see, Scott is in a video game world. Those of us who have never really dealt with a video game world, we know, have thought about a video game world, we never thought about the whole concept of life and death. I mean, if we killed somebody, would they respawn? Would they turn into tokens? Would they give us points? Would we level up? You know, I mean, would serial killers be considered the most powerful people out there? I mean, those of you who played WoW, especially on a PvP server, know what it's like to get ganked. Think of that. You're in the real world, all of a sudden you get ganked, you respawn about 50 minutes later in another spot, you freak out because you just missed your lunch hour. Or you're on your way to work and all of a sudden some guy beats you up, throws you out of your car and steals your car. Well, shit, now you're out of getting to work on time. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do. One of the things that draws me to this is the concept of Scott Pilgrim himself. When we actually get into the opening sequence, it's kind of interesting to see that we are in Canada, as this is the opening sequence. Let me show you. See what I mean? I mean, it starts out like a video game. interesting to actually see that happen. You don't get that a lot with a lot of movies. I mean, yes, you do get some text scrawl and all that, but it's always treated like the Ten Commandments. You know, such and such, the great and honorable, went and did this, and now we find his grandson on a grand scale, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's interesting to see the whole thing happen, but at the same time, it really kind of gets you. Unless, of course, you're into those kind of movies, or you're doing that kind of movie. I mean, there's some movies out there that take themselves way too seriously. Anybody who's seen Alone in the Dark or Birdemic know what I'm talking about. And those of you who have actually watched those films, I'm sorry. Because I've actually made a friend of mine recently watch Birdemic. Yeah, it's on Netflix, so if you want to watch it, go ahead and do it. I don't really recommend it. It's got worse editing than this. And believe you me, I'm not very good at editing, so these people actually made a movie that went on Netflix that did this. So somebody out there is thinking, hey, this is a good idea. I don't know why, but back to Scott. Scott Pilgrim, when we first start out to him, he seems like the slacker, the ultimate slacker. Yeah, of course he's with a band, but he's bass guitar. He is just he just doesn't pay much attention to the actual band itself. I mean, he seems like he's one of those characters that you're gonna. He's the friend of the hero. That's what it seems like to me. However, since he is the hero, he's that. Well, it's Michael Cena.
Amazon.ca, what's the website for that?
Amazon.ca.
I have to order something really cool.
You've got mail.
Dude, this thing claims I have mail.
It's amazing what we can do with computers these days.
Dude, now I'm reading it.
He plays that character that you think he's going to be the nerdy guy, or the friend of the guy, or the friend of the hero. You know, just that, not the hero. You're never going to see him as the hero. But he plays it so well. His character is just, you'd never see him go to work, but he has money. Granted, that's movie logic right there. I mean, those of us who have been without a job for a while, we know we get unemployment when you can, but after that point, you are kind of screwed. You have no money. You are basically bumming off friends. He lives in a one-bedroom, one-room apartment, so studio, with a friend of his named Wallace. Wallace is one of my favorite characters from the film, other than, of course, Scott. Just because he knows everything before anybody else knows, especially if he's unconscious. He reminds me of my brother. And Robert, that is not a bad thing, even though, of course, Wallace is gay, but hey, you know, you're gay too, and I just love it because if you're the first one usually to know things. You live far away from the family, and I find updates from you more than I find updates from mom and dad. So, okay, don't take it the wrong way. You are cool, but Wallace is better, okay? I think, honestly, Wallace may be the perfect man for you if you ever found him. Anyways, Wallace kind of tells him, hey, this is what's going on, this is what you need to do. Especially since Scott is actually going out with a Chinese girl named Knives Chow. Knives is a high school girl, and, you know, you would think that right there would put it, maybe she's underage, but maybe this is the logic where he is 20 years old, she's 17 years old, so maybe it's okay. They don't really explain if he meets his parent or her parents or not. I know in the outtakes they do say that how they met, but it never is implied that her parents like him. It seems more like she's just fascinated by him because the fact he's in a band, he's older, he's cooler, you know. Oh my God.
You guys are so amazing.
And that's all right. That's all right. But the thing is, it's only so far it can get you, because then, of course, as we all know, those of us who have ever read the comic, anything else, know that he finds Ramona Flowers, has a vision of her. then sees her at a party and just totally strikes out. But he found a way to get her into his life. Now, those of you out there that have actually dated, and those of you who haven't, there's a big rift between you. Those of you who have dated, it's an interesting thing when you meet someone who has a lot of baggage. Ramona Flowers is one of those ladies with a lot of baggage. A lot of guys who are hanging off her that want to be back with her. And it's interesting to see this, especially with, you see the first fight that they get into, and that's the key thing behind this, is you treat Ramona Flowers as different levels. You have the 7 evil X's, you have the 8 worlds in Super Mario, usually just 8 worlds, usually around that. But you have all these characters that you have to fight, the bosses. But the thing is, though, it's just one big boss fight. So if you really want to throw it into it, you could easily say this is like Shadow of the Colossus, where you have nothing but a boss fight. However, for these characters, each one brings us closer to realizing what kind of person Ramona is, as well as, of course, what kind of person Scott Pilgrim is. And you can see this from yourselves as well. Every person you've ever gone out with kind of shaped you a little bit. Myself, I've had a few people in my past that have kind of shaped me for the better. One person in my life just went ahead and shaped me for a little bit more crazy, a little bit more cynic, but awesome at the same time. So she's cool. Others, of course, they just go ahead and cause you a bunch of heartache, and every time you think about them, you just want to go up there and just strangle them with all your might. But you can't do that. That's bad. But with this, you find that with each battle he goes through, first, of course, being after the kid with the fire powers. Again, video game world. This is freaking awesome. Fights him, of course, and when he defeats him, well,
you'll pay for this. Flowers. If you want to fight me,
What?
ha, you're not the brightest. You won't know what's hit you in the slightest.
This guy's good.
Me and my fireballs, my demon hipster chicks.
Tell me, Maddie.
I'm talking the dark, 'cause I know I'm slick.
S.L.ick.
Fireballs, take the suckers out. Let us show them what we're all about.
That doesn't even rhyme.
This is impossible. How can this be? Open your eyes. Maybe you'll see.
Sweet.
and nearly every battle goes like that. In the case of the vegan, Todd Ingram, you don't really get that kind of person. You get someone who is just, you almost think that he's getting with Scott's ex just so he could fight Scott. Don't know why, but again, that's how it looks. And then you get into the battle with the twins, which, okay, I don't know if everybody has this fantasy, but I do. You know, one day, you know, granted I'm married now, so that's probably never going to happen, but hey, excuse me, never will happen. You know, twins. Every man has that fantasy. If a man says he doesn't have that fantasy, he's lying. I'm sorry, he's lying. Women out there, ask your men. Ask them if they ever say they would like to be with twins. Especially tell them if it's going to be any type of persuasion of interracial twins. If it is, if he says yes, he's telling the truth. If he says no, that fucker's lying. All men know this. Okay, this is part of being a man. We want the whole group of women. That's why harem anime really appeal to guys, because it's like, haha, I'm one man and all these women are after me. Haha. But they have to make it more appealing to the women, so they have to have all these little quirky things happen to the man. So that's how you get like the harem animes. Harem sex animes are totally different. You usually have one man boning all the ladies because they just want his cock. And in the end, either he finds that one lady who wants to bone him, that loves him as well, or all the ladies bone him at once. Scott Pilgrim is kind of like this, but not that explicit. Scott wants to be with Ramona Flowers, but at the same time doesn't want to tell Knives Chow that yes, he wants to be with Ramona Flowers because he doesn't like the whole idea of breaking up. In fact, he finds out later that he made a lot of mistakes in his life with people and relationships just because of how he was treated with his first breakup. And for those of you out there who have done that, myself personally, I've only gone through one breakup where I initiated. The others kind of fizzled out or were just slammed in my face. The whole idea for a lot of guys to be told that we're not going to go ahead, we're not good enough for that lady, it's kind of sometimes too much for us, so we kind of shut down. You see that with interactions whenever Scott is talking about his haircut, his hair getting long. Because as they say in the movie, when he got his haircut was the day that his old ex broke up with him. And of course he doesn't like to talk about getting his hair cut. He's cut his own hair since then. Myself, I don't cut my own hair. My wife cuts my hair because she used to be a cosmetologist. So it's good to have a wife who's a cosmetologist because she makes me look beautiful. Yes. We go through all the X's. We finally get to the last one. And I'm not going to give you a lot about this because, of course, I like the final battle. I like the whole dynamic of how they portray the game, how you can win but still lose. Excuse me, win, well, yes, win but still lose, lose but still win. And you get that life back. And, of course, a lot of people have kind of mixed feelings on the ending. They did go with what it was in the comic. Again, I'm not going to give away the ending. I'm actually trying to be as unspoilerific with this actual review rant as possible. But one thing that always threw me was, and this is just one thing, little spoiler, at the end he fights himself, which is a nice little turnaround showing how the inner turmoil of himself having to deal with two ladies, one realizing she can't be with him, the other one realizing that she doesn't know if she wants to be with him because she doesn't want to be that one to break up the world that he lives in. Basically, Knives and Ramona. But he fights himself, and himself seems like an okay guy. Nega Scott seems like to be an okay guy in the film. And I would just say, if Nega Scott was more hot on Knives Chow, have him go with her, and regular Scott go with Ramona. And later on they could double date and have times and maybe go ahead and live next to each other or whatever. But that's just the way it should have been, in my point of view. Unless, of course, Nega Scott has Nega Ramona Flowers and Nega Knives back at his place doing something. Which a lot of you out there who are thinking that right now, that's actually kind of cool because, you know, but it's an interesting thing. The whole movie itself. A lot of people don't like it because it kind of cuts a lot of stuff out from the actual comic. A lot of people like it because it kind of fast-paced the whole comic. Myself, I enjoy it. It's a guilty pleasure. I saw it a long time ago with friends as we were playing the game of life. They put it on, it just totally took my mind away from the game, and by the end of the game I lost, of course, but I had 2 cars full of kids and I had not hit a space that said I got kids. So I was kind of wondering how that happened. My wife to this day still laughs about it. So, in the meantime, I leave you with a few things. One, next week we are going to do another rant. However, I'm going to change it a little bit. It's going to be more about one anime that I've really, really liked, and I've watched most of the way through. With some animes, I'm afraid to actually watch it all the way through, because if I do, I'm afraid that I might end it and then have nothing to watch. So, until next time, the anime I'm going to bring up is KOR. Those of you who don't know what it is, look it up. Those of you who know what it is, you'll understand the hurt. Until next time.
一つの出会いが二つの恋に進み、三つの震える心が優しい音色を奏でた。春日京介、15歳。青春してます。
アクセルの悲鳴咲きしむタイヤから見知らぬ君の背飛び出し白べ追いかける影を振り切りとは閉めた君はどこでもいいから走ってと出会いはハイウェイジャンクション港が見える頃恋に落ちたと気づいた Take me to summer